Hi everyone, I'm Jenny Dozier, and this is my organizational change presentation. Today, what I'd like to share with you for my organizational change presentation is a little introduction on the change that my institution is working towards, some of our primary goals regarding this change initiative, the change plan itself and our action plan steps, a timeline in terms of how we're hoping to address and implement these change action plan steps, and of course the measurement and impacts that we're hoping this change plan takes into effect. A little bit of a background on this particular change here at TCC, the institution I currently work for in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Our Office of Educational Accessibility is working on sort of revising and bringing back into play an advising program that we had actually started pre-COVID, in the pre-COVID time, in the before time, that was very much successful. And this was an advising strategy which also included not only revamping our faculty advising plans and initiatives, but it also included a subset of various programs that fostered and facilitated peer mentorship. So these were opportunities for students who had already had some college experience. They had already completed a semester or two with us, or they had transferred from another institution, and they had some experience and were able to share, mentor, and foster belongingness and networking relationships with their student peers. We had a lot of success with this, and of course, as with many things because of COVID, and certainly in higher education as well, some changes that we had to implement during the COVID years, having to pivot and shift to really mission critical level strategies and implementation tools. This was an advising program that has sort of fallen by the wayside, and we're very much excited to bring it back, revise it, revision what our goals and missions are for this type of student services, and how it can also be used to improve our transfer and graduation rates. And while I haven't spent time or space in this presentation to build the case for why mentoring is such an important tool in academic settings and for student success, I do just want to briefly mention here, just for the purposes of saving some time and for focusing on course concepts for this presentation, but I do just want to briefly mention that there is a large body of literature to support how important peer mentorship can be in academic settings for student success. This is a quote that is on the wall of one of our fantastic advisors on my campus, and I see it whenever I go in for a meeting with her, with her team. It's by John C. Crosby, a 20th century politician and advocate for education. And this quote really, to me, sums up the importance of this mission with this change goal, that mentoring is an opportunity to learn from someone else. It's someone that you can lean on. It's an ear that will listen to you in a way that maybe others in your life aren't. And it's also a push in a new direction, an exciting direction, a direction where someone can help support you by showing you what to expect and help you to be better prepared down the road. So a little bit here of our primary goals for this change. Again, the vision here is to help develop and implement a new type of advising tool that we can use. And we're able to do this partly through a Title III grant funding opportunity. And again, the piece of this program that I'd like to focus on for this particular project for our course, because I think it really does tie in and synthesize so much of what we've learned during this semester, is the peer mentorship piece to this advising strategy. The idea here is that peers can support each other. So there is peer-to-peer support in adjusting to the new college experience that our incoming freshmen or first generation college students may be experiencing, and hopefully be used to help improve retention and transfer rates as well. We're hoping that this program can do what it did before when we first implemented it in its first iteration, which is to help build and develop some of those necessary success skills for our incoming college students. help improve communication and social skills, and facilitate more of a sense of belonging with peers and with faculty and the wider campus community. So who are some of our student populations that this is aimed towards? Well, originally in the first iteration, the first phase of this type of advising program that was utilizing peer mentorship, we really focused more on our neurodivergent students. So students who had come to the Office of Educational Accessibility and had appropriate paperwork and diagnostic testing for autism spectrum or various intellectual learning disabilities. But now, in this new revisioning of this program, we're hoping to expand beyond just our neurodivergent student populations to other populations of students who may also be at risk or have various barriers that may be impeding on their student success initiatives. So we're looking at also expanding this to our military students, those who are first generation and college students, and also students who are coming to us from other institutions. So they've transferred to us. We have so many more college students who, because of the competition that now exists in higher education, due to fewer students who are enrolling in college today, you have some students who have started at a four-year school and they have dropped out. They've been on academic probation. So they're coming to us, which is a little bit of a reverse of what we're typically used to. We're typically used to getting those students first, helping to build up their skills and prepare them for the four-year institution setting before they transfer. But we're seeing a little bit of a reverse now. So we're hoping to also capture some students that fit into all of these categories in this new program. Now, this is a little summary of the change plan that I believe best fits the mold of what we are attempting to achieve here. And this is really based off of the change path model in terms of the awakening, mobilization, acceleration, and institutionalization phases that we've learned about this semester. The awakening phase is certainly noticing that we need to make some advising changes. There is certainly a gap that we have been able to identify pre-COVID, and now certainly with all the challenges that students have been facing over the past few years. There are students who fall through the gaps, who are being missed, who are not reaching those milestones. They're not reaching level of acquiring certain number of credits to graduate with a certificate or with an associate's degree yet. So there are levels and layers of support networks that we know need to be developed and implemented in order to capture those students who are not meeting those criteria. We're developing a vision now again to hopefully really expand on what we had already initially worked on years ago. The mobilization phase is going to require certainly lots of communication, how this change is going to impact the campus community, leveraging those important change agents across the college. Who has the skills and abilities that we can use to implement this? Building those coalitions will be a part of this phase. Acceleration, managing these transitions in a new type of model, engaging and empowering our agents through various training programs that we have set in place, building the momentum of making sure that we are training the trainers, and so to speak, we're training those who are going to be training peer mentors themselves, and also empowering those peer mentors to have the resources and tools they need to facilitate this type of advising model. The institutionalization will be measuring and tracking these changes and making modifications as we have lessons learned. I look at this more as an emergent change. It's much more incremental. It's going to require experimentation. This is something that has a potential risk because we just don't know yet how successful this will be. We imagine already that it will be a little bit slow on the upkeep to begin with, but because of this is really going to be something that's much more emergent. This is a bit of a timeline here just to give you an idea of how we are planning these phases of rolling out implementation and also for measuring opportunities for improvement. A responsibility chart just to show you some of the lead key players here from our accessibility coordinator, our lead trainers, and support staff in terms of who will be responsible for communication, managing and maintaining the paperwork and forms involved, making sure that we have the right tools and materials for training, again, training the trainers or training the mentors themselves. How do we recruit these trainers? How do we go through a process of approving students through an application of who this is best suited for? And so you can see that our accessibility coordinator really in that role of approval, our trainers and support staff more so in the implementation of responsibility, informing, leading communication and charges for communication, and general program support. Scenario planning is essentially our main contingency plan. We know that there are possible future scenarios that we can examine, whether it is, are we going to have trouble recruiting these mentors? Are we going to have more students than we have mentors? Our survey feedback, which we plan to distribute and disseminate, is going to be very much important in terms of understanding where the shortcomings are. But we're trying to plan ahead now by thinking of these scenarios now and try to think through some of those issues and plan ahead. What are the blind spots going to be, and how can we plan for these before they happen? Our communication plan, utilizing Klein's key principles that we've covered this semester. Certainly, redundancy in the message is going to be so important. So we are going to utilize everything at our disposal, all of our social media accounts, our Canvas homepage, emails, face-to-face communication, going to various places where students and faculty and administrators are gathered so we can share this in person. Looking towards authority figures, supervisors, and certainly leaders on our campuses, especially student leaders. So students who, again, have already mentored, especially after the first phase or semester of this. After the first phase, who will have some experience and can share this type of initiative and how important it is for students on campus, and focusing on the relevant personal information as it relates to those who are participating, whether they're a student or those in the administrative or faculty end, making sure that we are emphasizing to students how this can be a service learning opportunity. It could be something faculty could give as extra credit to participate in this. Could be something that could be also resume building for our potential mentors. Our action plan steps based off of Kotter's 8-stage process is really first and foremost, we know there's an urgency. We know that we need to think out of the box and become creative in our plans to ensure that we are improving retention rates, improving our graduation rates. And again, doing enough of what we can do to foster belongingness and to capture those students who are falling through the cracks, who are not completing or reaching for completion in their programs of study. We want to build and guide coalition. We want to develop our vision and our strategy for this plan, communicate this vision, and empower our participants. This is going to happen mostly through training, and then also when students are out there actually implementing those changes. We're hoping that this is also going to include a lot of feedback and ideas from our student mentors. So they'll give us some ideas and tools that we can use to make this process run even more smoothly and strengthen it. We want to celebrate those short-term wins. We want to keep adapting, certainly, and we hope that this will be a change that becomes part of our overall college culture. Our key players are certainly our admin, our advising team, trainers, faculty, and students, whether they're mentors or the participants who are actually receiving the services. We plan to measure student feedback to be able to capture the attitudes and experiences that students have during this advising opportunity, both for mentors and the participants. Stakeholder analysis will also be important here to examine the relationship between our change agents and the initiatives. Cultural mapping tools, identifying the subcultures at play here, and cultural knowledge will also be very important moving forward. Impacts will include belongingness, retention, and performance. In summary, we hope that this will be a plan that